after I heard the mayor's, I texted Mr. Ockery and I asked him point blank, do you still have an interest in all points? And he texted me back and said, no, we sold it about a month ago. So he does not have an interest in that company. And then, secondly, I've heard a couple of times tonight that we need legal counsel, of course that costs. And first of all, I'm on this board reluctantly, I just assume I'd be on this board. Secondly, I believe that if we do nothing, the federal government and the state government will provide broadband to everybody eventually. But we have a lot of impatient citizens that want broadband soon, and so we seem to be obligated to move forward. So the idea of the fact that we are going to have to spend something is to protect ourselves, and if we can get back $100,000 by putting up $50,000, that's pretty good, return on that amount of money. So that's what made me change. That's what prompted me to vote for that maneuver. So anyway, I just wanted to clear that up.
Right, and I think I read a press release about All Points Broadband. I believe they were acquired by a private equity firm in connection with a separate partner that has technical expertise. So I think that's out in the public domain and has been for some time. Yeah.
All right, Mr. Pate?
Well, thank you folks for allowing me the chance to speak with you, even though we did not respond officially to, or with a proposal to your RFI. We are grateful for the invitation. I hope you all received the letter we sent in lieu of the response. So again, my name is Richard Pate. I see a few familiar faces from previous meetings that I've attended while I've been working with people I've brought up before. I was just consulting with them for a number of years, and purchased it along with my brother Russell. He and I are business partners in many things, and so we've purchased that from Mr. Rich Shoemaker as of the 1st of this month. I just want to briefly kind of tell you what we've done and where we're going. I'm again very thankful for the opportunity, but this opportunity is really a good fit for us. But we are going to continue on nonetheless. We've got a pretty aggressive roadmap that we've laid out over the next 36 months. I can share some of those things with you here publicly. Customer service is right at the top. I know there have been some concerns on social media, and we have worked with many of those people directly, privately. Some of the issues resolved, others are in progress. And then there's a lot of work we have to do publicly on social media, so that's certainly part of our plans. We do have new ways of communicating. So anyone who is watching this after the fact or reading over the notes, they can always contact us for support at support@piedmontbroadband.com. And then there's been a lot of people who are reaching out to former employees for service, and those messages are not getting to us. In many cases they are, but sometimes they're not, or there's a significant delay, and that's causing frustration. The very fastest way to reach us by phone is the office, which is our, I believe it's 540-9919. I can make sure that number gets out to you guys. So in terms of the plan, we, forgive me. We need to address the stability of our network. Everyone's pretty much aware that whenever the storms come through, we have outages. And, our goal is to be a mission critical utility for Broadband County. And just because it's raining or because there's lightning, we can't have massive outages. And that's where we are. There's a number of reasons for that, but we have a plan to correct that, and we hope to have
that 98% cleared up within the next 12 months. So, power to these sites, these base station sites, hardening these base station sites against the elements, that is critical. One of the things that plays a role in that is using a communication structure. Now, I hesitate to use the word tower because every time I say tower, people think cell towers. Yes, cell towers are great, we love them. Anytime in wireless network, even height, it's to your advantage. But that kind of works against us here in Rapp County, what you guys are trying to do. So these structures are 80 feet or less in many cases, and they're 12, 18 inches wide. I mean, it's not a massive structure. The entire footprint of this thing would be 30 feet square. It's not a large disturbance. They can camouflage very well, and if I have it will be. But that plays a huge role in the stability of the network, is the actual physical installation. The next thing on the roadmap that is really important is the speed issue. So we would like to get the numbers that are in the VATI, the numbers that are in your RFI. That's a great number. 25 meg. We have some customers now that are receiving that. There's some customers that are nowhere near that. There's a lot of moving pieces involved in rolling that out to all of the counties. But I do want to point out, though, that there are a number of ways to deliver 100 megabit per second wirelessly. It's very difficult to do that in a cost-effective way to 1,500 people. The bill for that type of service is going to be more than what most people want to pay. Yes, a radio is capable of serving that to a large number of people, but to have a dedicated link at speed and bidirectional is going to be difficult. I won't get into too much more of that. And then lastly is security. There's just a number of things that we want to do to improve the security of our network. Do you folks have any questions for me? Is there anything that I can?
I think for me, it's the scalability. With the ARPA, it's got to be 100 or scalable to that. What's your expectation as far as your equipment and the hardware and software?
So there's a reason why scalability is at the very end of that. Subscriber growth is really the heading that it's on in our internal documents. It is very possible, but we have some work to do to get there. The vegetation, the foliage is immense. Right now we are predominantly mounted in trees because there was no other place to put this equipment. And the wireless network line of sight is everything, but the RF line of sight, just because you can see something does not mean that you're going to have an effective radio link to that. So that's something that a lot of people aren't aware that we are having to focus on. We need to have our base stations, so where the internet comes from, the access points. Those have to be upgraded. They must be I'll say that they must be a tower, whether that tower is 80 feet or a cell tower 200 some odd feet. It must be an industry best practice base station. It can't just be something that's co-located in someone's home or their garage. That's not acceptable. Because we're not going to be able to scale. It works. It gets the job done. Gets somebody internet. Some connectivity is better than no connectivity, and that's kind of been how the network was built. And to their credit, there was nothing here 12 years ago. My job is to take it to the next level. And again, my brother and I were bringing in industry best practices and trying to underpin a production network with those industry best practices. So the good news is that the subscribers are there, and we have a lot of infrastructure out there that can be upfitted easily. We have access to high ground, which is everything wireless. So to kind of bring that back on full circle to your question, it takes time. That's one of the reasons why I'm not comfortable agreeing to the speed and the percentage of coverage within 18 months. Yes, it can be done. Yes, I will do it. My brother and I are not short-term business people. Everything we do is for our family, for the future. I would like my children to be providing internet in this county. And so we are building this just the same way we built our other businesses long-term. The skill will be there, but I have to have that solid foundation first. And what that means is going back to the sites that we have and improving them to support that scale. Now, in terms of, we can talk technical at a later time, but yes, there are radios out there that can do this. I don't believe that I'm going to be offering 100 meg synchronous wireless service to customers anytime soon, but they certainly can expect 25 meg or better. Again, we have customers that receive that now.
Sure. I think you already answered a couple of my questions, but I'll ask them anyway, just for the record. And let me just make the statement, I was surprised that you didn't respond to the RFI. I think would have been a way for you to respond and say what you just said, which is, some of the technical parameters within the RFI maybe were not ones that you could in good faith meet, but I think it would have been a good idea to at least put the submission on the table so that from a starting off perspective, we had everyone in front of us. And I made that point the last time we met. Mr. Shoemaker was here, and I don't know if he passed that along when we extended the deadline by 2 days. I was kind of hoping that he would come in with something, but too late for that. So my understanding is that you did not want to respond because of the speed and the speed requirement and then the timeline put forth in the RFI. Is that correct? Were those the two main reasons why you didn't respond? Or maybe you just tell me. My question is, why was this not a good fit for you? And what does that mean when you say that?
Certainly. So the deployment timeline is certainly a big factor there. Overall, it did not appear to be a good fit for me. The money involved, the timeline, the speeds, some of the challenges that we have in our network now. I want to be very careful in what I propose to the authority, to the county, what we promise. I want to make sure we can deliver on those promises. Again, I've been involved for 4 years. I haven't been directly involved. I haven't been in as many meetings as I probably should have. Again, I was just an outside consultant, but I've been aware. And I very much want to make sure that what I bring to you guys is what we're seeing. Again, regardless, we're going to continue to grow, we're going to continue to do the best we can for our subscribers. We're building some base stations that are going to service parts of the county that do not have service right now. And then we're also upgrading some really key base stations that haven't been touched in a few years. I'm doing that for the 600 subscribers we have. We're going to give them the best level of service we can. I do want to grow. I do think it's possible for us to service, 1,000, 1,200 subscribers easily. It is just making the commitment to the timeline within the document I did not feel comfortable with. And I also really didn't feel comfortable responding to, it was clear you guys put a lot of work into that. It was a formal request, and I wanted to make sure that we were able to meet what you outlined in your request. So,
okay. No,
does that make sense?
Yeah, I appreciate all of that. All joking aside, the way I would get customer service in the past is I had Matt Shoemaker's cell phone number. So as soon as I corner you on the street sometime, I'll be seeking that because it worked really well. And I say all joking aside because one of the other members of the public who spoke earlier made a good point, and that is your small Piedmont Broadband and Virginia Broadband have been small town type operations. And a big part of that small town approach to doing business is the 600 subscribers being able to get immediate service instead of being pawned off to a call center in the Philippines or something like this. And so I would say to you that as you go forward, you should really nail down the customer service side of this, because we all know that until you harden your infrastructure, that every time it rains, snows, sleets, sun shines and the clouds come over, something happens somewhere to an access point. And you all have been in the past very nimble at coming out and, for example, getting Aristotle back up and running, but I would just urge you to really, and I recognize you're going to be pulled in a lot of different directions, but as you're working on infrastructure, don't lose the customer service side of things, because once you do that, then you lose your primary competitive advantage, in my opinion, which is your small town operation, which I think we all can appreciate and we all want to support. Another question for you, in talking with the shoemakers in the past and trying to get some of my constituents connected, it is clear that there are limitations to the technology vis-a-vis the topography in Rappahannock County. First of all, I'm not sure if you're aware, but we did adopt an ordinance that allows for 80-foot metal towers, and we did that largely because Piedmont Broadband's prior owner thought that would be a way to harden your infrastructure. So our local government has gone a bit out on a limb to allow you, at least by permit, the right to use those towers should you need them. Even with those towers, my question is, sitting here right now, as we think about potentially a hybrid solution, and I agree with a lot of people says it's probably not one-stop shopping here for getting universal broadband. I mean, I assume you would not stand there not having responded to the RFI and say to us that Piedmont Broadband is going to offer a universal solution. Am I correct?
That is correct, and so there's a lot of things to unpack there. Firstly, thank you for hearing us on the towers. I could not believe earlier when she was retired that it was all these radios and trees. I really could not. So thank you for hearing us. I will be submitting 2, possibly 3 applications to the county to build towers right away. It's not a one-stop shop. There's just no way. You've heard it from people, and I was busy making notes. There's a lot of good points. This is a team effort. This is not something that a single provider is going to do. Even if a well-capitalized provider comes in here, they're simply not going to get the ROI. I love competition because it makes us better. It's good for the consumer. It drives innovation. It keeps us, you mentioned customer service, and that's certainly a value proposition for people on broadband. But we have other things we can do. Providing a last mile connection, that's something that you're not going to get affordably with traditional buried cable or even aerial cable. It's just not feasible for a lot of people. And even the Starlink offering, that's not feasible for a lot of people. So I love the competition, and I think that there's a lot of different partnerships among providers, folks that respond to the RFI, others too. So the way to deal with topography is really a multi-pronged approach. Again, if you have fiber, you get fiber on the main roads, you can get, there's a lot of connectivity in a lot of places that high ground, you have cell tower sites, bringing in that infrastructure as far as you can get, and then using different technologies, frequencies and radios from various manufacturers to get that distributed throughout the county. We need to move away from 900 megahertz. I know that has typically propagated well through foliage. It's just not where we need to be. It's not going to provide the performance people want in 2021. 2001, maybe it did. In 2.4, we need to bring in 2.5 gigahertz, and specifically LTE 3.65 gigahertz. And I'm also planning on bringing in, we're going to redo our frequency plan in a significant way. Our distribution radios are going to move to licensed frequencies. And that's going to free up a lot more of the 5 gigahertz frequency that is unlicensed, and it's used in a lot of these, we call them CPUs, or the custom premises equipment. It's going to allow us to provide more bandwidth to our subscribers, and that is how you're gonna get the speed. So because of the frequency we're used, that we're stuck with, we have very narrow bandwidths. And so that affects the speed to the subscriber. So when we move some of our distribution radios to different frequencies, it opens up more frequencies for the phone. There's a lot more along that, I'll get into. So yes, anything we can do to get fiber in here. I have been trying for about 3 months to get backhaul from a company called Hurricane Electric. I can get it as far as Akron, Virginia. I cannot get it into here. I've tried with various carriers. I'm looking for a fiber solution. If I can get Hurricane in here from Akron, Rapp County will have top tier internet connectivity. I mean, you will be peered with the rest of the world at the very highest level. I can also reduce our cost because I can buy a wholesale from them, and that will be better for the subscribers. Currently, our backhaul is 3 gigabits per second. I can bring in 10 gigabits per second for significantly less money, and that allows us to scale. And I also want to bring in, there's 2 other places, Berryville, and then there's another spot that I can't discuss, where we're going to have ultimately a 10 gig connection. Lots to go back.
Well, last 2 questions, I want my colleagues to jump in, and they're interrelated. First, would you be able to estimate now, knowing more about the county and having acquired the business, would you be able to estimate now as we think about a potential hybrid solution? Let me be the first to tell you that I'm eager to support you in any way possible. Piedmont Broadband's been great to me, and I think a local solution definitely has a role here, especially given the unique topography of the county and the type of technology you're using. First question, what is your estimate of coverage by percentage of surface area in the inhabited part of Rappahannock County roughly? What do you expect to offer eventually when your infrastructure is all hardened and you have done everything you want to do? And then the second part of that is, and I'm not asking you to go into business proprietary information, but at least give us the confidence regarding capitalization. I think it's great you and your brother own the company, but obviously we are at a point where we have to make big decisions for the public interest, and we need to have confidence that if we stand behind you, that you're sufficiently capitalized to do what you say you're going to do.
Fantastic questions, I truly appreciate them. So in terms of, and I'm a newcomer, okay, so again, I've been around 4 years, but in and out in very specific areas, so I'm desperately trying to learn as much of the county as I can. I'm prepared to speak to the total number of potential subscribers more so than the already. I do know that there's a lot of places that simply are not going to meet an ROI model. There's no way that I could build a base station and get any sort of return. But I believe that it is possible for us to service between 1,000 and 1,200. I would like to get ultimately 1,500 subscribers.
You mean households?
Excuse me, yes, forgive me, households. So I believe the numbers that I've seen, and I'm going by census data, I'm going by data that's in the RFI itself, there's somewhere north of 3,000 or 3,100 households. And the numbers that I've seen on publicly available services about competitor internet access, it varies, but it is my estimation that there's about 1,500 households that are, or structures, some of them are businesses, some of them households, there's about 1,500 that are serviced by Comcast or similar providers. Why would you go with a wireless solution? It's not competitive unless you truly like our customer service, and I really think you will if you try us. Right, exactly. And there are more customer service facing things, ticketing systems.
Is the 1,500, pardon me, is the 1,500 inclusive of the 600 that you already considered?
That is correct.
Okay, so it's an additional 900 is what you're offering?
Yes, an additional 900 is what our goal would be. And again, internally, that's a 36-month deadline.
36 months, and then at the 900 additional households, do you have a cost estimate if all in terms of towers and hardware per household?
Per household.
Right, I mean, how much will it cost you to connect 900 additional households, rough numbers?
I'm not prepared to discuss that just yet.
Okay.
I will tell you that, just full disclosure, getting back to my comments about being a team effort. So my brother and I, we started our businesses with $150 a piece. And we were very much a middle-class family, middle-class background. So, and I'm not nearly as well capitalized as some of the, I believe it was 10,000 pound gorillas, the phrase used. But we definitely put the sweat equity and muscle behind it. We're very financially stable. Coming out of pocket with millions of dollars is not something that we're able to do, which is another concern I have with actually looking at the VATI itself.
Okay.
And I realize that's a non-answer, but
That's fine. And I don't mean to put you on the spot, I'm just trying to understand how this is all going to play out. And we just have to make sure that as we're talking to potential partners, that, as I said, that we can have confidence that you're in a position to deliver what you're promising. But what you're promising is relatively modest, and I assume it will be, to some extent, a supplemental service offering in areas that might not otherwise be served by some other technology.
The known unknown is the radio that we use. I can tell you that the tower infrastructure, pending what Rapp County requests of us in that process, the tower infrastructure will cost between $10,000 and $15,000 a piece.
Okay.
The radios, you've seen in your proposal, the Ubiquity networking equipment.
Yep.
Ubiquity is a fine company. I've done business with them for 13 years. I've personally installed their equipment for 13 years. Along with others, the Microtik, Cisco, there's good equipment out there that is lower priced, like Ubiquity. But there's also some excellent equipment that is a perfect fit that's very expensive. And there's no way that we could deploy that with the storm damages that we have. There are a number of reasons for that, but I simply can't put $15,000 radio in a tree. So when I can deploy those LTE radios, you will see a massive increase. So, an LTE base station, you're probably, to do it right, is 30 grand. And this is very much from the, but this gives you an idea.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Sorry, everyone.
Anyone else?
I just had a question, and it really kind of stems from the Madison Gigabit reply that we received. And I think you may have approached this in other terms with the difficulties of applying for VATI. One of the eligibilities is that you have to have FCC 477 data. And it seems like that's something we've heard from in the past is a difficulty that you all would have to overcome. Is that something that you're going to undertake?
Yes, so that is yet another thing. So I've read your RFI multiple times, let's say at least 6 times, and I spent a lot of time on it. And I also went straight to the VATI. And the 477 requirement is in the VATI. And obviously, I was not involved in the day-to-day operations prior to the first of this month. And I realized very quickly that we had not filed that form. So there's a number of things that we're missing out on as a service provider by not filing that form. And of course, it sort of precluded us from if we even made it to the point of the VATI, right? So I, again, wanted to get our ducks in a row before I came before you with a proposal. But we will be filing that this year, and we will file that every consecutive year from this point forward. And it's a good thing. This is one of many things that we're going to do good.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Mr. Wilson jumped the gun on that approval for those 8-foot tall towers. We didn't actually get that far. The other group didn't.
The other group didn't?
The other body did, yeah.
I apologize. It was a big night. We're close. I think.
Yeah.
9 public hearings. I apologize for losing track.
Anything else, Mr. Green?
Well, I guess most of the questions or comments that I have entertained have been said, so I'm not gonna ask you to repeat anything.
Thank God.
But, I was just wondering, with what, you know, reliability, you think you can handle something like 25 security, which is, I think a lot of people have.
Absolutely, without a doubt, and matter of fact, I consider that a minimal. Yes, I was very much, you know, a lot of the connectivity we have now, I consider best ever connectivity, and that's not something that I wish to remain for, you know, another. I'd like to fix that as soon as possible. 25 meg, I believe, is a minimum.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Again, thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Right, moving into the regular agenda items, regional partnership opportunity I brought up last meeting that I was invited to speak with Mr. Bailey and Supervisor Colors of Warren County with regards to Northern Shenandoah Regional Commission. And I met with them on Friday afternoon and found out that, I think I have this right, that it's Clark, Frederick, Shenandoah, Rockingham, Augusta, Page, and Warren are all potential members of this regional approach to, I think the memorandum says fiber to the home. That definitely got my attention, but I knew that we had to get everybody up to speed on what that truly means to the area, and whether Rappahannock County not being necessarily in that part of the state, if we could join it, even if we wanted to. So I did ask, Lonnie Hamilton is on the call, and so is Kyle Rosner, both from the Office of, Kyle's with the Office of Broadband in the Richmond level, and he is here to answer any questions that we may have with regards to VATI and what this would mean should we choose to go in that direction. And I would like to let him speak and answer any questions the authority may have, so that he and Lonnie, if he chooses, can drop off the call. Mr. Rosner, thank you very much for joining us on short notice. And I would like to kick this off with a question with regards to the regional approach. And I know you can't speak to what the region itself is doing, but if a broadband authority wanted to join it within the regional approach, what does that mean for our VATI, the likelihood of VATI dollars, having so many partners basically in this? And then if we decided to go our own direction with our own partner and apply just with that partner for the VATI, what's the likelihood of the dollar change? Because this all comes down to how much money a county can get to bring fiber to as many homes as possible. So I'm hoping you can clear that up for all of us.
Sure, and thank you for inviting me today. My name is Kyle Rosner. I'm the Deputy Broadband Advisor to Governor Northam. I'm actually not in the Office of Broadband, but I'm an adopted brother to them. VATI, this round, will have a ton of emphasis on universality. It's in the interest of the Commonwealth to start checking entire counties off the list. I think it's in the interest of counties to not go at this piecemeal, but yet finish an entire county with one project. For those of you who didn't see, Governor Northam announced last Friday, he's proposing $700 million in the federal ARPA money for broadband. That's in addition to the $50 million body round this September. So we could be looking at potentially $250 to $350 million available for broadband this round, this year. So all that's to say, I think the county should think big. We're pushing every locality to think big and every provider to think big. A few things I want to address that I heard from the previous speaker. Number one, the 18-month timeline is flexible. So if it's a larger project or the provider or the county can demonstrate why the project timeline needs to be longer than 18 months, it can absolutely be longer than 18 months. That shot clock of 18 months starts when the contract is signed, not when an award is made. So typically, let's just say, you submit your application in September, you find out, hey, we won in December. The contract between DHCD, the localities, and the ISP, it takes a while typically to get those things signed and buttoned up. So we're looking at the shot clock potentially starting in the first quarter of 22. And then DHCD will consider delays if there are delays in the project. So I don't want folks to feel like 18 months is the hard and fast deadline that DHCD is looking for. We're very flexible on that. Another thing about the Form 477 data that we look for, we ask for it, but we also say in the body application, if you're a provider that doesn't have it, please provide X information. So we don't require, you don't have to have Form 477 data to be the private sector applicant for a body application. Just wanted to clear those things up. I do want to your question, universality is going to be a big scoring factor in this year's body. I would say the two things that are emphasized the most in scoring and that localities should keep at top of mind is, does my application achieve universal coverage? And is my application cost efficient? We realize that those are two competing ideas, but we're asking folks to get creative and walk the fine line. Again, I think in past years we've been very cost efficient focused. That we're trying to keep that there, but I think there's going to be less of a cost efficiency focus just because of the size of the amount of money we have. Before, when we had only $50 million and we were getting $105 million in requests, we really had to push applicants to be cost efficient. I think, it's up to the county whether you come in on your own and achieve universal coverage or you come in with a regional application and achieve universal coverage. Typically, if it's a large regional application, there's multiple partners, there's a lot of different leverage, that will probably score better than if it's just you guys and one ISP. But it's not going to be that big of a scoring difference. So I don't think, I think first and foremost, what the county should think about is what's right for the county, not is this partnership going to score well. You have to decide what's right for the county and be comfortable in that, and then pursue grant funding. I'm happy to speak about body. Lonnie can speak about body. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Other members? Did you know the one thing that is right in front of my mind is that we're going to try to get in as a county in the body program this year. We have to have a partner that we sign up with by the 27th of this month. Is that correct?
Very well.
Okay, Lonnie.
Oh, so you don't need a partner by the intent of the notice of intent that is this month. You only need a partner by the time you apply.
Yeah, I was just going to say that there is very little downside to not putting in your notice of application. I think I did a double negative there, but the county should absolutely put in your notice of application. Even if you end up not finding a partner or not submitting something for body, it's still well worth just putting in the notice, covering your bases, just in case something does come together. And you don't have to say who your partner is in the notice. It's just that Rappahannock is intending on applying for body.
And there's no negative. There's nothing happens if you're not applying again. There's no penalty for that. So.
That I can't speak for. I'm not sure if the proposals that the county have received have that deadline in them. I can't speak for what private providers are asking of the county. From the Commonwealth's perspective, we keep it very minimal. We just want to know what counties are intending to apply, and it's really to allow counties and incumbent providers, if they're not the partner, to discuss the potential project and minimize our impact, because we don't want to go through a challenge process with any project.
Thank you for that clarification.
So, point of further clarification, then the county, Rappahannock County could application or notice without a partner that's, we don't have a provider by the 27th. And what would be the deadline then to actually have a provider? Is that the September deadline that we were told about earlier?
Well, no, that's the application deadline, so you definitely wanna have a partner before September, or else you're gonna be scrambling the week before to put together an application. I would think you wanna get one as soon as possible, so you can start working on engineering the network and putting together an application. So we're just saying that you don't need one for the July 27th, but there's not a deadline, you just wanna have one by the application deadline, obviously, because you can't just come in by yourselves.
I wonder if you could just reiterate, I lost you a little bit, on the regional approach or the multi-county approach. So could you just restate, you mentioned scoring, but if you could just restate in simple terms, your view,
Yeah.
county our size with a population of ours, which is 7,300 people currently, with potential friendly partners around us. I mean, partnership or not, what's your view on that?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, setting aside, I'm not endorsing any project, I want to be clear about that. I know you guys have multiple partners that have offered to the county, so I'm not endorsing any of those. Generally speaking, the Commonwealth does promote regional approaches, just because we want to see larger projects, and typically a regional project would be a larger project. We like larger projects because it's more people being served. Typically, the economies of scale in broadband are real, so when you start to pool together resources as a region, the provider's costs aren't escalating a ton, and you can actually save money, especially if you're getting partners involved like REC. With that said, it might not be the right choice for the county, I don't know, you guys would know that. In scoring in body, we take in a ton of different inputs with how we score, but one of them is, does it achieve universal coverage? So if you're part of a regional application, typically it does. If it doesn't achieve universal coverage, it's a part of a plan to achieve universal coverage. So you can't just come in for half the county and say, we're gonna get to the other half someday. That won't get you the point boost that is really critical to your application being competitive. You would have to actually detail, this is phase 1, and this is what phase 2 is gonna look like, and this is our partner, and this is what our ask is gonna be maybe 2 or 3 years down the road. I am a big fan of regional applications. The whole team is, they just, from the Commonwealth's perspective, again, we have 140 something localities. We're trying to check localities and regions off the list. The governor has his goal of universal broadband. He's accelerated that goal from 2028 to 2024 and put a historic amount of money towards it. We're hoping to be one of the first states in the nation to close the digital divide completely. That's all dependent on good applications and good projects from our localities. So whether it's a region or just Rappahannock alone, having a universal project is critical. I think that's the thing you need to focus on.
Okay, good answer, thank you.
From my understanding of what I heard from Mr. Daly and from Supervisor Colors is the regional phase 1 memorandum of understanding the county can sign on without any financial commitment or any long-term commitment if we decided down the road that that's not what we wanted to do, we could get out of it without any penalty. I am planning on attending the meeting tomorrow evening. I hadn't thought I was going to, but I just feel like I want to be at the board meeting that's at 5 o'clock tomorrow in Warren County. The ISP is presenting to them, as far as I understand. Any other questions for Mr. Rosner or Mr. Hanson?
I guess if this is all the discussion we're gonna have about an MOU that involves a lot of other counties to partner with, the only downside I see in that is the downside we experience as a county sometimes when we enter into partnerships. And I'm speaking about this, in terms of become the bigger fish in the pond by partnering with other counties. But the bottom line is, we're still one of the smallest fishes in the pond,
Good point.
regardless of partnerships. And we've all been there, we've all heard it, in terms of our involvement on other bodies, that we're sort of the last place that gets attention. And that just is what it is. It's, Page County is twice as many people as we are, and that's probably the next smallest, or the next least populated locality in that partnership. So I just would say that maybe, while it may leverage some options for us, there may be some downsides too, that we may, be asked to get attention regardless of how we broker the deal, simply by our population and some of the unique challenges that we face as a county in terms of topography.
Good points.
I'll just add on, this is just a comment. One of the first counties that will achieve total universal coverage in Virginia is Grayson County, Virginia, which is, if any of y'all have been there, extremely mountainous, more mountainous than Rappahannock. I think the population is less, more sparsely populated. I would maybe venture to say it's larger in square footage as well, or square miles. So if they can do it, if folks in other counties can do it, you guys can absolutely do it, even though you have a low population and, for all the challenges that are out there. The carrots that both the state and local governments have right now are big enough to incentivize. I mean, you saw with how many people responded to your RFI. There's enough incentive out there that companies are really striving to lock down universal plans in each county because they see what the Commonwealth wants. So just wanted to add that on.
And I also had another comment as well. If you are considering a regional approach, if you're worried about, being maybe the last in line to get served, I would talk to, the coalition that is in this partnership, and I would talk to them about, what a potential project schedule might look like, because, it's possible that, they're building out in multiple places at once, or maybe they are going county by county, and you might get the end, and that's something you might want to work out.
And if I heard correctly, the coalition, the work has to be done by 2025, or that's what the commitment is?
So I can't speak to any private partnerships that are ongoing right now. I don't know what they've committed to the county. I can say that for the federal funds that the state has, so that $700 million that I just mentioned that Governor Northam proposed for broadband, that money needs to be obligated by 2024 and needs to be expended by 2026. And again, the body, if it comes in under body, the timeline for projects starts at 18 months. It will extend longer if it's a project of scale or they can demonstrate why it needs to be extended longer. I'm not sure 2025, that timeline might be too long for the body team. We'd have to see. Any of these large projects that come in, we always ask them to phase it and break it down, budget, passings by county. So we want county by county, what is your plan? And then we can put it all together, and we can, if it doesn't work, maybe we only fund half of it and tell them to come back in next year. So I don't know where you're at the 2025. The money has to be expended by 2026 for the federal side of things.
Thank you. I know that we all want to do whatever we can for the highest service that we can get to the citizens of Rappahannock. I'm just wondering if we could do two things at once, which is agree to be a potential member of the regional, while at the same time reviewing the 3 submissions that we received, because we have the ability to get out of the regional if we want to go with the individual.
Madam Chair, I have a problem right off the bat with the regional thing, because it still has a memorandum agreement that this, in this particular it's exclusive, we can't be working with anybody else outside of that agreement. So, and that creates a problem because we have Chantel that's obligated to build the RDOF program in the southwestern part of this county. And if we had any ideas of working with them, that would be outside that agreement, so we would be in violation of the contract that we contemplated signing.
It's my understanding that the RDOF, any ISP can come in and say, I'd like to cover that area as well. And then we have Chantel in that situation challenge, and say, this is what I'm committing to the county with Steve, Carter, or whatever, in the contract, and commit to a time to have it done. So you can actually have two things going on at once, but Chantel would have the right, if and all points came in and said, I'm gonna do it as well, I'm gonna come in and try to get this area covered in fiber. They can have some sort of, I don't think it's the words of dispute, but a legal decision.
I don't think we should be going too fast, until we have legal counsel that understands a little bit of the technology that we're dealing with and the legal framework that we're being subjected to.
Madam Chair, I think it's a significant discussion. I appreciate Mr. Prager's comments. I know that we're, unfortunately, as we anticipated we would, running up against the clock, and I would like to stand up and shake things out a little bit before we start a meeting.
Yep.
So I wonder if we could agree to continue this meeting.
We
So
can
take time
do that, but I wouldn't be in agreement to obligate the county in any way, shape, or form right now. So continue the meetings probably the safest thing.
Okay. Should we pick a date and time certain?
I think we have
Okay.
If you're going to continue the meeting, I need to get a time, place certain, otherwise you could adjourn and have
a special work session.
call meeting, whatever you want.
And what would the notice requirements be on a call meeting? I just don't want to eat up a lot of time.
No special requirements for broadband so for you notice.
Okay.
3 days.
Okay.
You'll have to have big time release.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't, the chair would then have to figure out when everybody's available and call the meeting at the right time. That doesn't make a lot of sense.
I mean, since we have an agenda,
Yep.
the agenda is out there for public consumption. We've got some big questions we need to wrestle with here. So I would prefer in fact to continue the meeting if we could, and I'll try to be nimble and confirm my availability if we want to work that out.
I would agree with you, that way we've got the meeting time set.
Yeah, and we have the agenda, and so does the public, most importantly.
Does I don't know, y'all know how tight it is, but the 22nd, which is Thursday,
It would be prep, but if you're going to continue, that's fine.
Yeah. 22nd.
I can make that work.
Yeah, fine,
I better be fine with.
yes. 22nd at 5:30.
That's fine.
I'll be in the library board meeting at
I was gonna say, can we make it a little bit later? It's 5:30, it's gonna tell something.
What's the library board meeting ending?
4:30 till.
So 6 o'clock?
6.
6 o'clock? So, the meeting will continue on the 22nd, 6 p.m. at the courthouse. I think that's all you need, right?
I really think we ought to make sure the body application is due on the 27th.
That's just the letter.
Okay, so we feel like if we, but it's not really even on our agenda this evening, other than as a deadline reminder.
It's,
So I just would say, I guess we should amend the agenda.
potential broadband, it's item 2 under regular agenda items, so you want to be more explicit than that, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I would think we would.
It's the letter of intent, basically.
The last sentence under E2 states, "The authority board will discuss the process through which body letter of intent will be prepared and submitted before the reference deadline."
Okay.
Yep.
That'll handle it.
Okay, so I move that we continue this meeting until, did you say 6 p.m.?
6 p.m.
6 p.m. on Thursday, 22nd, in the Rapp County Courthouse.
Have a motion?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Gentlemen, thank you very much for being on the Zoom with us today. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
I'm always with God.
Hey.
Yeah, so somebody said you're taking my picture.